Hello and welcome to Mythic Mind Games, an extension of the Mythic Mind Fellowship, which pursues wisdom on the paths between primary and secondary worlds. I'm Dr. Andrew Snyder, and I'm glad that you're here.
With the greatest of aplomb.
Alright, welcome back to Mythic Mind Games, as we now talk about something that's not a game. We talk about the Fallout on Amazon Prime. I thought about putting this over on the Movies and Shows podcast, but I figured the natural audience is probably going to be here, and so we'll just keep it all in one place. This time I'm sporting my Sunset Sarsaparilla here. Figured that'd be fitting. Now, I will say that maybe I should start with a disclaimer here. Classic, consistent.
Yep.
But yeah,
it's too late for me to be drinking like a lot of sugar.
That's fair. Yeah, I have a superpower of being able to just go to sleep at any time. It's called having twins.
There you go.
Oh, hey, I got a blue star. Anyways. Yeah, nice. So before we get started, I should probably give a disclaimer because most of the people who listen to me, kind of what I'm most well known for in these parts is my Tolkien stuff, my Lewis stuff, and literature, philosophy, that sort of thing. And so, a lot of different people are, maybe there's some crossover listening to this, people who maybe don't really know what Fallout is, or at least haven't seen the show. And I should say that this, unlike most of what I recommend, this is not something you should probably watch with your kids, especially your young kids.
No. Do not watch this with your children.
Yes, I just want to make that very clear out front. Maybe even certain listeners shouldn't watch this if you have certain sensitivities. Like for example, I mean, there's a lot of profanity. There's a lot of really intense violence, but I mean, I would say it's like over the top campy violence to the point where it's not realistic. But if that's something that upsets you, well, maybe it's not for you. Also, like there are a couple like brief scenes of nudity in here.
There's some nudity, there's some sexuality, there's
like it's nothing you can't skip, and it's just unnecessary stuff. So I just wanted to put that out there. It's there. Know that going into this. That being said, obviously we're talking about it because there is still a lot of merit here. If you can kind of wade through some of that stuff. So just want to say that.
It's a good show. I mean, like it's a decent show. Let me put it that way. It's a decent show. Just don't watch it with your kids.
Correct. And if you like Fallout, you should more or less know what you're getting into. And if you like Fallout, I would say that you're probably, not necessarily, but probably going to like the show. Maybe I'll let you give first impressions this time before I give mine. What did you think of the show, general terms?
It's your okay, fine. It's your show. I think you should lead, but sure. I guess I'll keep it really short for now, and we can come back around.
Yeah.
So I think the show, it's decent. I think it is. It's a good show. It's a good enough show. I'm very critical when it comes to the stuff that I like and I consume. So I would argue the show is not. It's not as good as everybody says it is. That's my take on the show. It's not as good as everyone says it is, but it's still a decent show. It's still entertaining. If you like Fallout, you'll probably like this. It depends on what kind of Fallout fan you are. There are distinctions there. I would say for me, I thought. I watched the show together with my cousin, and we both kind of had a similar opinion. We thought roughly the first 3 episodes, in our opinion, were hot garbage. And then once we got to episode 4 and onward, that's when we were hooked. That's when we were invested. Was kind of like episode 4 onward. So and I would say. My kind of like my final verdict to round this out, 7.5 stars.
Yeah,
out of 10.
I think that makes sense. I mean, I feel like in those first few episodes, they're concerned more about like letting everyone know this is Fallout, and the writing itself is not very good.
I will get into why I think that later, but you.
Yeah, and to me, in the various ways that we could consider, like, is this a good show? Is it not a good show? Does it work? Does it not work? I mean, we could talk about the writing as a show itself, the characters. Is it compelling? Is it coherent? But I think that when we're talking about an adaptation like this from video game to a show in this context, um, I put a lot of weight on, does it give you a similar kind of experience? Like, does it capture the feels and the vibes as the kids? I don't know if the kids say that, but does it capture the feel of playing the game, that kind of world? And I would say it largely does. Now, there's some things it does that are it's a little bit funky, but for the most part, I would say they do a pretty good job in capturing the spirit of the game, and that's what I really look for here. Now, obviously, we need a compelling story as well, and we mentioned this in the last episode on Fallout 4 that we're still recycling some of the same stuff here. Of okay, got to leave your vault to go find your dad. Like,
Hmm.
we're dealing with the same stuff we dealt with in 4 and 3, and so not a lot of creativity there.
I would say though,
Yeah.
I would say that the plot overall, the plot of the show is infinitely better than 3 or 4.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, I agree. Overall, I think it captures the vibes pretty well. I feel like the story is good, and I agree that it does get better. But yeah, that's my first response. And so, why would you say the first 3 episodes are not good? Since you already laid that out there.
I'm a very so I don't have like all of the particulars because I haven't gone back to rewatch the show. I've done like a little bit of recap, but only for like certain specific things. So I don't have kind of like it all fresh and kind of written out in front of me. But I remember like so I'm very big on writing. I'm very big on writing and good writing, like good writing, good direction, like stuff like that. I'm definitely a nitpicker and a niggler, but I would say this is like I would say this is more than nitpicks. There are definitely some plot holes in the show that are just kind of bewildering to me. And I guess I should we're talking spoilers, yeah?
Yeah, let's do spoilers.
Yeah, if you haven't watched the show, maybe stop listening if you care about that. Like in the very first episode, well, there's like there's like little things that annoy me. Like like in the very beginning, you have Walter Goggins, his character, and like his daughter. They're talking about like bombs and like the whole thumb thing, and kind of like what you do, like if you see a mushroom cloud. So like, that's all well and good. The scene fell apart for me the moment that there was a mushroom cloud literally just over the hill, like in the downtown area, and nobody else notices except the small child. And you like even you have like so you have like this house, it's on the hill, it literally oversees everything, it oversees the city that's getting bombed. The house itself is like all glass walls,
Right,
to the back porch or whatever, where every so the idea that the dad went inside the house, got a piece of cake, and then literally turned around to go back outside, facing the direction of where the bomb is, which by the way, it looks like a second sun when it goes off, right?
right.
Somehow missed the mushroom cloud and the second sun, like literally just like right down the hill, kind of like practically at eye level, and then like literally faced it, turned around, looked at his kid, and still didn't notice that the bomb was there.
Well,
And the
look.
fact that nobody else seemed to notice that the bomb was there. That is the sort of thing I care about.
Well, look. Everyone inside was watching TV and talking. They weren't paying attention.
Don't watch
Um,
TV, kids.
you
Well, we're
know,
talking about a TV show. Like
right.
don't think about it. Don't think about it. Don't
Uh,
ask questions.
I mean, and I mean Howard Cooper. I mean, he's such a loving father. He was so devoted to rustling
Yeah.
up some cake for his kid that he just
Yeah.
couldn't pay attention to anything
He just
else.
couldn't see the bomb. He just couldn't see.
Exactly.
So there are like little things like that. Um, so the big one, and other people have brought this up, like the bigger one. So we're gonna fast forward to everyone's living in the vaults. Now we've got our main character Lucy, who's our resident vault dweller, and her family and whatever. So there is basically, and okay, these are gonna be big spoilers, guys. Okay, I'm serious. So there are basically, Lucy is from a network of vaults: 31, 32, 33. All right. Basically, the social experiment of this vault, of these three vaults, was basically to basically breed a class of people with a class of humans with kind of super managerial and leadership expertise, so that they could go out into the wasteland and basically recolonize the surface, and bring enlightenment and civilization to the animalistic survivors,
Right.
like
As Lucy
that.
says, they're going to save America.
Yeah, they're gonna save America, right? So there's this whole so throughout the course of the show, and this is when I really got invested in the show from like 4 onward. You slowly figure out that this is basically, this whole experiment, it's more than just an experiment, it's basically a conspiracy where, Vault 31 is basically the Illuminati, like calling all of the shots. It's basically kind of like, it's basically all of the like Vault-Tec leaders. It's like the actual leaders of Vault-Tec, themselves are in 31, calling all of the shots between them and 32 and 33. And Lucy, for frame of reference, is from Vault 33, right? Vault 31, unlike all of the other vaults, which are like small cities, Vault 31, you find out basically at the very, very end, is like this small, it's like this very small vault with a bunch of cryopods in it, like Vault 111 in Fallout 4. And it's literally just like all of the manager people from like 200 years before the bombs dropped, and they just kind of slowly release these people from stasis, kind of like one at a time, and send them into Vault 33 to be like the new elected officials, basically. Okay.
Hmm.
Is that so? Am I portraying this accurately so far, Andrew?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And so
Like,
33, they keep having these elections, but they're all rigged, so the
yeah,
31 people win.
yeah, every single time. So they have like this little front going, kind of like between 31 and the other vaults. And the opening episode of 33 is basically, it's a wedding. Lucy is going to Hank, who is played by Kyle, I can never remember his last name. McLachlan. Kyle
Hmm.
McLachlan. Agent Cooper from Twin Peaks, right? David Lynch, all of that. So Kyle McLachlan's character Hank is going to marry his daughter Lucy. Um, and the person she's going to marry is supposedly from Vault 31, supposedly, right? So these people show up. They look dirty. They look greasy. Honestly, they look really, really suspicious. They have a wedding, they have a party, and then all of a sudden it goes horribly, horribly wrong. As like, all these people, like, uh-oh, these aren't people from Vault 31. These are raiders, and they're killing everybody.
Right.
Um, right there. Right now, this only makes sense if you know the end of the show. But right there is kind of like our first problem, because how did Hank not recognize that who he because Hank is from Vault 31. He's on, Lucy's dad is in on the conspiracy. He's from 31. How did he not recognize that all of these people who just came in from 33 are not actually from 31? The second that door opened, he should have looked at all those people and realized that something is wrong. So that's kind of like our first problem. Now, the lady who's leading the whole thing, Moldaver, the bad guy, she's kind of got, we don't know what her deal is. We know that she is also from before the war, but we don't know if she's from Vault 31 or not. That's part of the mystery. We may get answers to that in season two. So Moldaver's still kind of a bit of a question mark, but she's the one calling all the shots. So Kyle, excuse me, Hank, Hank he should definitely recognize Moldaver because they were kind of like running in similar circles. But like the rest of them are obviously not from 31. They're raiders from the surface.
Well, I
So
thought maybe I'm misremembering, but I thought the exchange was with Vault 32,
you might be right.
which would at least make a little bit more sense. And even still, you would think Hank would have more information, but
You might be right. I may have gotten something wrong there. I may have gotten something completely messed up. So somebody can catch me on that. That being said, I'm going to say that, since basically 31 knows what's going on
right,
with 31, 32, 33. Hank should have looked at those raiders, essentially, those raiders poorly disguised
right,
as vault dwellers and realized that something was wrong.
correct.
Like like stuff like that just like immediately takes me out of a show. Um and then Moldaver's weird ultimatum. What was the ultimatum she gave Hank again exactly at the end? It was like I'm either was it give us Lucy or we blow up the vault?
It was,
Or
well, I think it was give us Lucy or I blow up the people I have tied up right here.
right.
Although he doesn't, I mean, he ends up saving Lucy and the people are
It's
fine too. So
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
yeah, yeah, is that was another thing that kind of had both my cousin and I just kind of like confused because because Hank going with Moldaver was not in the ultimatum, it wasn't in the cards. So he does something where right there at the front door, he throws Lucy in a closet. And then he just without any explanation, he doesn't even say Moldaver, take me instead. He just leaves the vault with Moldaver, and she just kind of turns around, goes with him, sets off the bomb that she was threatening to set off, and it doesn't collapse the vault entrance. It doesn't collapse the tunnel. Like immediately in episode 2, everything's fine. It's like there was no bomb in the first place. So that was like another thing where I was
yeah.
like, okay, I was starting to lose patience with the show. Um, the other thing that kind of irritated me was basically everything. Maximus, the whole Brotherhood of
Hmm.
Steel arc. So we get our second main character, Maximus, who's like a Brotherhood of Steel acolyte, and he felt like a very kind of almost goofy. I'm reluctant to call him a Jar Jar Binks character. He wasn't that bad, but he's so goofy and absurd that I found him kind of off-putting. There's a good character in Maximus as somebody who kind of he wants to be a Brotherhood knight. He wants to go out into the wasteland and do justice, which is not the Brotherhood's thing, but that's his dream. Um, but like there's this whole the whole plot with him at the very beginning, right before he goes out into the wasteland, is just very it's very confusing. There's like a whole thing where basically he's the runt, he gets picked on, he gets hazed by all of the other trainees. He wants to be a knight, but he's not going to get to be picked to be a knight. His best friend gets the promotion, and then all of the sudden there's like a razor. There's like his friend's name is Dane, and they're like a they're like a you know they're like a non-binary character,
Yeah.
but Dane gets a uh Dane basically has like a blade like that's hidden inside their boot,
A very large
and
blade.
a very like a very large blade like hidden inside their boot. And there's like this whole mystery kind of around like who sabotaged Dane to keep them from becoming a knight. and then Maximus gets the job. Maximus gets the job to be like the squire instead. Basically, there's all of this ambiguity as to whether or not Max put the blade inside his best friend's boot. And Max looks guilty as sin.
Hmm.
And Max's own defense for why he's innocent is not convincing at all. And for whatever reason, the leaders of the Brotherhood don't push him on this. Like if I were the boss talking to Max, like when he was being interrogated in the office, Max never would have left the camp. Like Max would like, to have his story. Like Max's plot would have stopped right there. Like in episode 2 or 3 or whatever that was when he's first introduced. It's and yet that's not what happens. The boss is just kind of shrugs his shoulder. While Max is sitting in the chair, just looking guilty as can be, unable to clear his name, the boss is just like, okay, I guess you can
Have a
go out
special
and
assignment.
have a special assignment. Now you find out later. You find out later that Dane put the boot, Dane sabotaged themselves.
Hmm.
Um, that they were the ones who put the blade in the boot because they didn't want to go out into the wasteland. They thought they thought Hank would get the job instead, which is what happened. But Dane did nothing to clear Max's name until like the very, very, very end of the show where this comes back up and all of a sudden it's finally a problem. Like 8 episodes later or however long the show was. That whole thing was very, very bewildering to me. And the whole time this is happening in the beginning, like Dane is being so ambiguous. It really feels like they wanted to have their cake and eat it too. It feels like they wanted to have the mystery of ooh, maybe Max really did, for the audience. They kind of want
Yeah.
the audience to think, ooh, maybe Max really did do it. But it's so ambiguous that to me, it doesn't make for compelling mystery. It's just it's narratively confusing. So there was like a lot of things like that where it felt like there was just like a lack of cohesion, kind of like in the writing and the characters, that was just really kind of and again like both of us, like my cousin and I, we were both just kind of like we were not, as these particular elements were playing out that I've just been describing, we were not feeling it. But once we got past all of that, like the show and the plot and the characters actually came together. It was just a really, really weird, clumsy start.
Yeah. You know, I kind of got the impression that the Brotherhood of Steel boss guy, I can't remember his name.
I,
Um,
I forgot.
but yeah, when he's questioning Maximus, I kind of got the impression that even though he didn't say this, he kind of liked that Maximus might be the kind of guy who gets results, right? And that's going to
Mm,
play in a little bit later on that he's looking for someone who's
mm,
able to get things done. And so even though he doesn't come out and
yeah,
say that, I think that might be a more positive way to read some nuance that may or may not be there. But I think that that's at least one possibility here.
that's interesting, actually.
Because later on toward the end of the season, this is when the boss guy basically said, "I want you to
Mhm.
come away with me, and we're gonna what's that, reform the Brotherhood or kind of do our own
Yeah.
thing." I don't
There,
remember
there,
exactly
there
the
does
deal.
seem to be a theme with the Brotherhood. Somebody noted this, and I didn't really think about it before because I was watching like bits and pieces of various recaps. Somebody made a similar observation that the kind of the theme of the Brotherhood in the show is so you have Lucy, who's kind of like the morally good character. You have the Ghoul, who has become like the morally evil character, and then you Maximus is from the Brotherhood. Now Maximus is kind of complicated, but like the theme of the Brotherhood is kind of like the ends justify the means.
Right.
So you have kind of like this, you could say this quote unquote gray middle with the Brotherhood. So that's actually an interesting take with the boss and how he treats Max in the beginning.
Now, I will say with Dane's blade situation, if Dane's going to do this, why does the blade have to be so incredibly large?
I don't I don't know. I don't know. Like I don't maybe it would help if we pulled for some from some actual real life examples. The only example that's coming to mind for me at the moment personally is the scene. And did you watch Downton Abbey?
I did. Yeah,
You
yes.
remember, I don't remember what season it was. Do you remember when, so Tom was the, it was Tom, right? He was kind of like one of the servants who,
Was that like the
uh,
was that the it's been a while. Was that like the which one was
he
he?
was, he was like he was like the evil gay servant.
Yes. That
Which
one,
is
yes.
which I kind of hate. I kind of hate framing it like that, but like yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very yeah, it's like but anyway, he go or at least that's how he starts. I mean,
Yeah.
he's kind of he's I never finished watching the whole show. Like Tom has always
He
just kind of been
he
a piece of work. I've
he
never
kind of
really seen
becomes
him in
nice eventually, but
he kind of becomes nice eventually. So he anyway, he it's when the World War started and he's in the trenches. He doesn't want to be there. Like he doesn't want to be on the front lines. He wants to go home. So he like he gets out his lighter and puts his hand over the trench so it gets snot
r-
shot by a
right.
sniper, and that injury like he gets a hole blown through his hand, and that sends him back home. So that's kind of
Yeah.
the only that's kind of the only other parallel I'm drawing to at the moment. There are some people they are willing to maim themselves to get out of like a life-threatening situation.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess that's fair.
That's all I got for Dane. And I think that's fair enough. It was just it was just how it was just how it was framed.
Yeah.
It was framed in such a way where it felt like I don't remember, but it felt like me and my even after Dane confessed to hurting themselves, I, it felt like much later. It felt like my cousin and I were just still like, what is going on here with Dane? Like, like is this like did they do it or not? It's like
Right. Yeah. So that's I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, it's just not very compelling to me. Now
no,
I guess we're framing this with main character introductions here. I mean, should we go on
yeah,
to the ghoul next?
yeah.
Um,
Why don't you take the ghoul?
yeah. Well,
Your turn.
I like what they're doing, what they do from the very beginning to some extent of showing um, Howard Cooper. Is that his name? His real name? Or
Oh, I
in
don't.
the
I'm sorry, I don't
show?
remember.
Yeah. Anyways,
I think
so
so. I think you're right. I think you're right. I think it's Cooper.
yeah, so Cooper, before in the war, he's like this loving father. He's like a really sensitive
Yeah.
guy. We found out, I don't know, it's like second or third episode in one of the flashbacks. He's shooting this Western film, and he doesn't want to in the film he's shooting. He doesn't want to kill the guy, so he's like really sensitive, right? And then juxtapose him with the
Yeah.
ghoul, who is just a sociopath who does whatever. I kind of like what they're doing there in just showing his
It's
transformation.
it's deliberately framed too.
Yeah,
Like every like like everything is very like anytime they show a flashback with Cooper where he is being like a good person in a specific context, they flash forward to the present where he's a ghoul and they're showing him being a despicable human being in that exact same context. So it's like
right,
I don't want to kill this guy. Flash forward, shoots an innocent person.
right.
Like pick moral situation like in one scene, opposite in the next scene. They do it all they do it all they frame it and they kind of rhyme it rhythmically like in a very intentional way.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that. And honestly, it's kind of heartbreaking, right, to see
Yeah.
that juxtaposition.
It's kind
Um,
of insane too. Like he is so like he is so insanely evil like
right.
as a ghoul.
But
Like
at the same time, even though he's evil for I don't know 90% of the time, like
yeah.
there are those moments of where they show some introspection where he's just left in despair, recognizing who he once was.
Hmm.
I mean, in that episode with they go to the supermarket so he can get some more of those vials, and and at the end of that episode, he's just watching his old movies.
That's
Obvious,
the ghoul serum, right?
yeah, exactly,
Right. Okay.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so at the end of that episode, he's just watching his old movies with this look on his face, like, remembering who he once was. And so there's
Hmm.
still some humanity left within him. It's just he's suppressed it so far down, I guess, as a way of surviving in this kind of life that he's had. I mean, I don't know what it would be like to become a ghoul, but probably not very good. I mean, and so there's moments of humanity in there, even though he is a
Yeah.
monster most of the time. But now going to his main introduction as the ghoul, I'm not a
Hmm.
fan of this zombie scene where they literally dig him out of a graveyard. Um,
That is a reference to a character I think in Fallout 2.
is it? I'm not
Yeah,
familiar
there
with
it
that.
yeah, I was confused too when I saw that. I was like, why is he in a coffin? I wish I could give you more information. Because like I picked apart the logistics of that too. Like that the quest with the quest in Fallout 4 with the kid who was in the fridge for
Uh-huh.
200 years somehow and didn't know that he was a ghoul and couldn't get out of the fridge for 200 years, and nobody could hear him in the fridge for 200 years, and his parents who were actually just down the street who were also ghouls like never thought to go out into the street and see, like, oh, there's a fridge there and there's a voice inside, and oh, it's our kid for
Right.
200 years.
Right, but you happen to
Like,
wander across it as the player.
yeah, yeah. And then it's like, wait, what is Goggins doing? I was kind of having that same thing going on there. So like I can't answer those questions because I don't remember the particulars. But there is a character in Fallout 2 that is a ghoul who is just kind of chilling in a coffin when you find him. So it's like a cameo. But I don't remember any of the specifics. I didn't I forgot to kind of like look that up before we
Well,
started.
it makes me feel better to know that there's some precedent there within
Yeah.
the games. But now, within the lore they've established about ghouls within the show, about how you have to have the serum or you go feral,
Oh yeah,
um,
that's brand new.
why was he not feral if he had been lying there in the coffin for that long?
I don't know. I also don't know how long he'd been in the coffin either. Because I
I get
think
the impression
well,
it's been a while, but
yeah, I honestly don't know. I mean, like he talks, I mean, the way he talks in the show, he's been around. Like he's been around the wasteland. He's kind of like he obviously hasn't been in the coffin the whole time because by his own admission in the show, like he's been like when he's talking to the thugs who are pretending to be the government, like he's very, or when he's talking to like the people, like the family in the NCR Ranger armor,
mhm.
like, and they apparently have some history. Like, I mean, he's been around. So
Yeah,
I don't know how long he's been in the coffin, but yeah, I was having the same struggles there too. But there is, yeah. So
yeah. I don't know. Do you have anything else to add about his introduction?
so one of the guys that I was watching called Oxhorn, who's got like a series of Fallout videos, he actually made a really interesting observation about Goggins' character Cooper, about how the uh you see him with as the ghoul when he's walking around with the dog. Well, first off, it's really, really goofy because the dog attacks him and then he stabs the dog. And then the
Right.
scene goes on for like another 5-10 minutes. You think the dog would have bled out and died. But he goes back out into the street and the dog is still alive.
It's a
So he
modified dog.
it's a mod, obviously, so again, like things like that just like bug me in a show like to no end. But so the dog's still alive, and then he kind of looks at the dog that he stabbed. He has second thoughts. He gets a stim pack. He heals the dog, and everything's fine. But somebody, Oxhorn, made this really interesting observation that dogs are kind of like a stand-in for both past Coop and present Coop. Dogs are a stand-in for his conscience because like his dog in his past is like his basically is like his favorite companion.
Hmm.
Like in both the past and the future, he talks to dogs like they're a person. He kind of has this one-sided conversation with dogs, and the dog is like his, again, the dog is what kind of keeps him like centered and kind of like, you know gives him kind of like his, keeps him being kind of like that good person, where like because like his wife in the past like worked for Vault-Tec and they're having some disagreements, there's some strain in their relationship with regards to the whole Vault-Tec business. And when he's first thinking about spying on his wife, he looks at the family dog and says, yeah, you're right, bud, or you're right, Rex, you're right. I don't remember the dog's name. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, I'm not going to do it. So it's like, I'm not, I can't spy on my wife. She's my wife.
Right.
And he uses the dog as his moral compass in the past. So like the fact that he goes back to the dog that he almost killed and healed is is kind of like symbolic of like his conscience slowly kind of like shooting kind of like coming back up like a shoot from a dead stump.
Hmm.
And I thought again, shout out to Oxhorn. I thought that was really that was a fascinating observation.
Yeah, that is interesting. And I mean, obviously, throughout this whole season, he's a bad guy,
Oh,
but
he's
at the
so
same time,
he's so bad.
I mean, it could be argued he's at least moving in the direction of something like a chaotic good throughout the season. In the direction. I didn't say he's there yet.
Yeah, we're not he's definitely not there yet, but you think you definitely get the vibe, oh, maybe there's hope for this guy.
Exactly. Right. Um, which I mean, it's not really where he begins, but I do think he definitely moves in that direction. And like I said, there's moments of introspection you get every once in a while. I think show us that they're going to do something with his character. I think that
Hmm.
he's going to get reformed over time, at least to some degree, on the right side of morality. If I mean, broadly speaking, at least I think that's where he's going.
Yeah, he's I would agree. He's so despicable, but like he's very likable. And I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. He's a good character.
Yeah.
Walter Goggins does a good ghoul. A
Yeah.
good ghoul. Riz talking gunslinging. I can't believe I said that. Riz talking gunslinging cowboy.
Yeah, he's definitely, I would say, the most compelling character of the show. And I don't think that's an unusual claim. Um, well, I don't know. Where should we go from here?
Um. So I'm trying to think. This is actually this is so this was actually something that I was kind of thinking about. That I thought was really interesting. This is a bit of a tangent, okay? I mean, it is Fallout, but like somewhat of a tangent from the show, but just something that I thought was interesting,
Hmm.
which was just kind of like how Fallout has kind of like thematically and aesthetically changed over the years, especially from like the first two games to the later Bethesda and then New Vegas entries, and then also kind of what we see in the show, which is I used to follow a guy pretty regularly a long time ago who's kind of like a D-list celebrity called Seamus Young. Who has he's got a blog called 20-Sided. He's probably most well known for his DM of the Rings web comic, where he portrays the story of the Lord of the Rings like a D&D adventure. And he made a video uh yeah, he's he's an old school Fallout fan, so he's got opinions on Bethesda Fallout. But he made kind of like the kind of video that you would probably expect from kind of an old school Fallout fan, which is Bethesda never understood Fallout. But he made an interesting point that I thought was like worth considering, which was basically like in Fallout, we understand the aesthetic of Fallout, right? As kind of like this retro 1950s uh uh this retro future 1950s atom punk atom core, kind of post-apocalypse setting. And what he mentions about that particular aesthetic in Fallout is that aesthetic is almost exclusively kept act in the first two games. It's almost exclusively in the past of the long lost American civilization. And what you actually have in Fallouts 1 and 2 is more of kind of like the Socratic exercise of what does what does like a Mad Max style, civilization look like in the context of that, basically. And basically what he was he goes into a lot more detail, and I can't really do it justice, but um he mentioned how basically Bethesda looked at that, kind of that 1950s retro future aesthetic, and then slapped it on everything, in even into like 200 years after the bombs dropped. Which I thought was an interesting point. But and then you have like the first two games are kind of like set like 80 years after the bombs dropped. Bethesda does this really weird makes this really weird choice where it's 200 years after the bombs dropped. And you have like kind of like this weird dissonant thing happening in the setting where, and this is like more present in the games than it is in the show, but it still is kind of there in the show. But it's like 200 years after the bombs dropped, everyone is still living in junk. No one has like swept or fixed the streets. No one, you've got untouched loot for 200 years. You've got, nature hasn't reached equilibrium and kind of healed itself again in 200 years. Society apparently just hasn't redeveloped in 200 years. Um, like just kind of like at all. And that's kind of like in the show too. It's like really, really weird. Anytime you see a settlement, it's still just kind of like junk. Um, New Vegas was a little more conscious about this, where they're actually showing the NCR trying to build a railroad. Hey, we've got like some development that's going on. People aren't just living in junk. They are building buildings. They are building roads. They've got like all this stuff going on. But like new Fallout kind of has like this aesthetic of everyone's still living in squalor even 200 years after the bombs drop, because that's the iconic look. Which I thought was just kind of like just kind of an interesting observation.
Yeah, that is a good point that it kind of disrupts the, I don't know, sense of realism that no matter where you are in the timeline after the bombs, everything's exactly the same. It's kind of like it's, it, Star Wars, right? You go to the old Republic, go to the new stuff, everything's basically the same.
Yeah.
But I mean, at least then you could justify it in that, it's an entirely different setting. But when you're dealing with an alternate timeline in our world, I think it just becomes a little bit more brought to the forefront here. So yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
I don't have much to can do add to that, but I think that's true that it's just, I don't know, it's unsettling. It's disrupting to the experience of enchantment, as to use more of a Tolkien kind of language here. I mean, the fact that yeah, people aren't building stuff. We're still living in squalor, as you said. Like there's still stuff just sitting around.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I guess bringing it back to the show, like more immediately
Hmm.
like pertinent to like the plot and the story of the show. One of the things that like I guess part of the reason why I bring this up is kind of like some of the like cultural context and tension like surrounding the show. I want to get in the head of like OG Fallout fans a little bit, like when we talk about this. Um because I want to be like we've talked about this before, I think in the Fallout 4 episode a little bit. There can be the discourse around old Fallout versus new Fallout can be pretty darn toxic.
Hmm.
And that's something that I don't think is okay. But if you can sort through the mess, I still think that there are like, there are some passionate older fans that kind of like, they kind of have a point, and they have like, they have some anxieties that I think are, I think that are like, reasonably justifiable here or there. I think I think the way, I guess in a way to contextualize it, for maybe something that, kind of like you and your audience might be able to identify with better. Uh, we as like, we as, serious Lord of the Rings fans, serious Tolkien fans, for example, right? Um, old school Fallout fans basically look at Fallout 3 or Fallout 4 and they see Rings of Power. Right. So like that's kind of the analogy, that I'm using. When I say Rings of Power,
It's harsh.
that bring it is harsh, but like
Yeah.
I'm trying to like I'm trying to bring like some like relatability basically into the discussion. So I say all of this, okay? Because I want to talk about Shady Sands. Now if you know anything about Shady Sands is basically a major city from the first Fallout 1 and 2 games. The player has a lot of influence in those games over what happens to the small humble town of Shady Sands, and basically, kind of like by the end, it becomes this big sprawling city and capital of what becomes the NCR. It's actually kind of like the one piece of evidence in the Fallout show, I guess. We talked about societies not developing, so to the Fallout show's credit, the remains of Shady Sands are kind of like one of the places where we see evidence of civilization after the bombs fell, because you still have skyscrapers like that are standing, kind of like in the ruins of Shady Sands.
Hmm.
But therein lies the problem. I said the ruins of Shady Sands because the Fallout show made the extremely controversial decision to bomb it, to destroy it, and it happens off screen, and that is and was very upsetting to a lot of old school Fallout fans. It felt like Shady Sands got done dirty. It also felt like there was a lot of accusations going around at the time that, like, oh, Todd Howard is trying to erase, Fallout 1 and 2 so that
Hmm.
only his perverted vision of Fallout exists.
Right.
So there has been some clarification since then. We do see a billboard that says that Shady Sands is the first capital of the NCR. Now some people still are not a fan of that. Like, I get it. I can respect that well enough, I suppose. But there was just kind of like this impression that between the bombing of Shady Sands and also the fact that our villain that we mentioned earlier, Moldaver, she seems to be rallying the few survivors that are left from Shady Sands into some small makeshift NCR army. And
Hmm.
then you have like that war with the Brotherhood of Steel at the very, very end, and the Brotherhood kind of like wipe that out. Again, there was just like a lot of anxiety that, oh, but Todd Howard's got a hard on for the Brotherhood of Steel, and he just, wants to get rid of the NCR and leave the Brotherhood of Steel like the powerhouse of all of the Fallout universe so that he can keep putting the helmet on the boxes. Which I think there's more going on there than that, but there were a lot of narrative decisions that were made that just kind of upset a lot of old school fans. I think some of this stuff still kind of I think some of this stuff, like, honestly, like, still works kind of like in the context of the story they're telling. It's not as plot holy as some people were, I think, initially making it out to be. But I have to agree, and even as somebody who didn't play the first two games, like, I know of the first two games, but I didn't play the first two games, so I don't have that connection to Shady Sands. When I saw that crater, I was thinking, wow, that was really bold. Like, I definitely think that was a really, really uh just a ballsy move, like on the part of the show to do what they did to Shady Sands.
Yeah. And I can definitely see the resentment that the old school fans would have to that, especially as you said, it happens off screen. You know, it's not like a major event that they see unfold, which, that might add, I don't know, some connection to it. And,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just saying that even though I haven't played the games, I intend to at some point in the near-ish future, but even still, I'm not going to have that kind of connection that the original fans had. But yeah, it definitely was a big decision. And just quick aside, you
Mhm.
brought up that final scene of the Brotherhood's crusade against the NCR there. And then when the Ghoul shows up and he talks about that one weakness in the Brotherhood of Steel army, he just starts blasting all of them. Why didn't he do that to Maximus when they were
Right?
fighting?
Right? When he like it was that what was that episode 3? Like
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
when Max steals the power armor and like he's fighting Cooper to save Lucy,
Uh-huh.
in the middle of in the middle of the streets of Philly, and yeah, he's just blasting away at the armor, and it's like
It's like I don't know if they just came up with that later and didn't go back. I don't know.
again another like just like another thing that I'm talking about when I get antsy about the writing. Like, this is the stuff that I'm talking about. This is the reason why I say the show is like a 7 or a 7.5 out of 10, as opposed to, oh, I think this is an 8 or a 9, or it's definitely not a 10 out of 10, not in my
Right. I
opinion.
mean, in my
But
experience, it's like you're writing an essay, and by the end, you recognize that you've written something a little bit different than what you originally intended, but then you just submit it and you, you don't go back and get continuity together.
there was also a scene where he shot out the lights,
Uh-huh.
where Cooper shot out the lights so that the Brotherhood were in the dark. They've got flashlights on their helmets.
That's true.
They never turned them on.
They forgot the controls.
They
I
for
don't
they
know.
for they for yeah. What's the button? I don't know. Yeah. But like now the destruction of Shady Sands is tied into the plot of what's
Hmm.
going on. You actually find out, it's so weird. So apparently, Hank's wife found out what was going on with the conspiracy, with the Vault 31 conspiracy, New World Order conspiracy, and she took the brother. I think she took the children and she tried to run off. She left Vault 33. She went to Shady Sands, and she met Moldaver,
Hmm.
and then I guess they became an item. But Hank didn't. But Hank didn't like this. Hank didn't like that his wife left him and took the kids, and then also I guess because she was jeopardizing the New World Order experiment or whatever. So Hank left the vault. He nuked Shady Sands somehow. We don't know how. That they may address that in season 2.
Yeah.
We don't know how he pulled that off, but he somehow single-handedly nuked Shady Sands, and took the kids back. And yeah, and apparently Lucy just has no memory of this ever happening.
Right. She has these very vague memories that she's sort of gaslit into thinking it just came from her experience in the vault, like with the she remembers herself in a field, just like the field that's in the vault. And so it's kind of like the silver
Hmm.
chair, right? Where, you never really seen the
Oh my gosh, you're
sun.
right. You're
Yeah,
right.
you never seen the sun. You just saw this light and you imagine a bigger light.
I completely forgot that there was like a farm field, like a small farm field inside 31. You're absolutely right, because they show her like running like through the wheat or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Like, and then like, to hug her mom, and it's like, except that, and then it kind of shows, oh wait, that's a skyscraper. That's not a fake vault background. That's a skyscraper, you
Right.
know. You're right. I did not, but dang, dude, you just blew my mind there.
Um, I don't know. Is there anything else that you feel like we should throw in here for just general season one talk?
The Brotherhood of Steel is really interesting.
Hmm.
Because so you get this impression from Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, and then also in the Fallout TV show, that the Brotherhood of Steel is itself kind of like is kind of like this world power almost. And my understanding, this was never the case. Like, the Brotherhood was always kind of like a small time, kind of like hermit techno cult. They were all about hoarding technology for themselves. The monkey barbarians of the wasteland don't deserve any technology. Like we beat them up, we take their technology, and then we go back to our little hermit hole in the ground. And screw you. And that's kind of the whole attitude of the Brotherhood of Steel in Fallout 1 and Fallout 2. And they're relatively small beans in those games. Um, what's really interesting is so like you get to Fallout 3 and all of the sudden, they're not on the West Coast, they're on the East Coast, and they're the selfless good guys. They're expending their precious time, their precious resources, and even their lives to just help people living in the rubble of DC against the super mutants who are not people, they're just orcs,
Hmm.
in Fallout 3. Um and so you've got so you got kind of like a for anybody who knows the history of Fallout, you have kind of like a weird whiplash between between old Fallout, Brotherhood of Steel, where they're kind of like this small miserly cult, versus the selfless heroes in Fallout 3.
Hmm.
And New Vegas course corrects, kind of brings them back to the old uh to the old Brotherhood. And not only are they the old Brotherhood, they're basically continuing what they were doing basically by the end of Fallout 2, which is they're dying out.
Hmm.
Um Fallout 4 tries to fix this a little bit by they're kind of returning them to the techno hermits. And then you get the TV show, and the TV show makes the interesting bold claim, like Maximus's boss guy, the Elder or whatever. The
Hmm.
Elder is making the bold claim that the Brotherhood of Steel used to control all of the wasteland, which, if you know Fallout lore, was like never really true. And then also they are claiming that the High Lords or whatever, like the high command of the Brotherhood of Steel, are apparently in the Commonwealth now, as opposed to the West Coast. They were always on the West Coast. I don't know why they would be on I don't know why the High Command would move to the East Coast. Fallout 3 actually made an interesting justification for the Brotherhood of Steel in Fallout 3, which was that they're basically an offshoot. They're basically an offshoot that broke off from, the main branch because with, they didn't agree with the doctrine. So there is, there is some like story justification for why they're being different in Fallout
Hmm.
3. You just have like this separate, you basically had a schism. You basically had this schism, and what was really really ironic was in the Fallout 3 DLC, you had a group called the Heretics, I think, I think they were what are they called, the Heretics? I don't remember. Their armor was like black and red.
Yeah,
It was when you
was that
jump into the
with the Anchorage
Chinese
stuff?
simulator.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Anchorage, the Chinese simulator.
Right.
Uh, but like they were called the Heretics or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
The irony of the Heretics is that they're actually the original Brotherhood,
Oh.
and that the like it's like they have kind of like this oxymoron misnomer, because they're basically the original Brotherhood, and technically it's Elder Lyons in Fallout 3 who's like the
The
heretic.
heretic. Yeah.
But yeah, so there's just so yeah, there's some interesting stuff going on, and you can definitely say like, oh, it's been 120 years since, or however
Hmm.
long it's been since Fallout 2, so a lot has changed and yada yada yada. But it's very interesting to see the evolution of the Brotherhood of Steel, from kind of like, one direction, they're one direction, and then the pendulum swings the other direction, and then it kind of like comes back to the middle a little bit, but then kind of goes back in Todd's court. Just a nudge.
Yeah, I mean, developmentally, you obviously see that there are different understandings of what the Brotherhood to be over time. Now, if we're looking in game trying to make this coherent, then I think that we can say that okay, there are some different chapters. Also,
Yeah.
with the that can have their own flavoring, obviously, especially since at this point we don't get mass regular communication, right? And so it's a little bit fragmented. And then with some of this idea that the Brotherhood used to control the wasteland we get in the show, well, that very well could be propaganda, right? In order to
Hmm.
inspire illusions of greatness. So I don't know. You definitely do see some moving development, even though I think that there are ways to make it make some degree of sense internally.
No, you could all of the pieces are there. The room is there to kind of
Hmm.
like expand the story, to kind of expand and justify the story in the direction that these showrunners, with Todd or whoever kind of want to take it. um like it's not there. It's not, it's not impossible. The framework is absolutely
Yeah.
there. Um I will say though, there was one thing that kind of like by one thing that bothered me. We've been talking about a lot of things, but I can actually back this one up. Tim Kaine, okay? Tim Kaine, who is one of the original creators of Fallout, and he actually has a YouTube channel under his own name. He does like short video blogs every day. You can like check out his, he does video blogs. You can kind of like check out his thoughts on, retirement and game. Actually, he's out of retirement. He went back to Obsidian in
Okay.
entertainment. So that,
Oh yeah, I
like
heard about
very,
that. Yeah.
very, very, very recently, which is interesting. But for a while he was talking about retirement. He was talking about like, oh, what are your questions about the game industry, or whatever.
Hmm.
He's an interesting fellow. He's got a lot of stuff to say. Um, he himself, probably much to the chagrin of some of the old school Fallout fans, much to the chagrin of some of them at least, Tim Kaine actually likes the show. He actually likes the show. He did have one major problem with it, and I do agree with him on this problem. I feel like the show pulled the curtain back a little too much on Vault-Tec. You have this, you basically, so Walter Goggins in the past, he finally decides he's going to spy on his wife, and he bugs her Pip-Boy or whatever so that he can listen. So apparently she's pretty high up in Vault-Tec, and she's sitting in on these board meetings and leading board meetings. So
Hmm.
apparently she's pretty important. She's pretty powerful. But basically, at the very end of the show, throughout the course of the show, while Lucy is having her adventure in the wasteland, trying to save her dad before finding out he's kind of a terrible person, her brother, who is staying back in Vault 33, is uncovering the conspiracy of Vault 31. And at the same time, he's uncovering the conspiracy of Vault 31, and Lucy is finding out that her dad is a bad person involved with the conspiracy, and the answers that Cooper, Walter Goggins' character, the Ghoul, is looking for kind of the stuff that he wants to know with Moldaver. Like it's all tied, it's all
Hmm.
connected, it all goes back to Vault 31 and Vault-Tec. So you find out like from this flashback that Cooper has, that lines up perfectly with Lucy's brother's discoveries, with Lucy's discovery of her dad, um, is that basically Vault-Tec, the way the show frames it, Vault-Tec conspired to drop the bombs themselves.
Right.
So in Fallout, this was always intended to be a mystery. Like
Yes.
this was so like this is definitely implied. This is definitely absolutely implied in the games that Vault-Tec had something to do with it. They just never outright confirmed it. And they left plenty of room and the perfect political landscape and tension for all of these superpower. Any one of these people, could have fired a bomb. Ahead of anybody, ahead of
Hmm.
anyone else, and thrown the other faction's plans kind of like into chaos, right?
Hmm.
Um, the Fallout show makes it a little more clear cut, which Tim Kaine didn't really like. I didn't really care for it either. However, I will say there is still room in the show that Vault-Tec maybe still didn't do it, simply because we don't see Vault-Tec actually launch a bomb. They're just
Right.
talking about launching a bomb. So we could look at it and argue maybe the plan didn't come to fruition like exactly according to their designs where they were the ones to push the button. We don't know. But it's a really cool it's honestly like just like I want to stress like the uncovering of the conspiracy is really good.
Yeah.
Like it's a fantastic mystery that comes together just kind of like in a wonderful way for all of the main characters.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that the as we move towards the end of the series, it is fantastic how they tie together the things that they've been building up. And I don't really have a whole lot to add to that, but I think that it is done in a very compelling kind of way. Where at the beginning of the series, I'm not convinced that they really knew what they were doing, which is why a lot of it seems kind of disjointed. But by the end, I feel like they really did figure it out, and
I
it's
agree.
fantastic.
I agree. It feels like I don't know why they struggled so badly with kind of some of those elements because it feels like it shouldn't have been that hard. Uh, but for one reason or another, like again, like the show just like by the middle and to the end, the show just absolutely comes together, and and it's like it's a really fun watch. It's definitely really cool.
Yeah.
Um, I do have a question.
Hmm.
So it's this because this was something that I didn't really get a chance to look at again, so I don't know if you know something. What the heck was going on with Vault 4?
What was,
And the like not the, excuse
oh,
me, let me start over. Let me start.
right.
I the experiments in Vault 4.
Yeah,
Like
that was the one. It's been a while since I've seen it, where they've got like, are they making like fish people, or I don't really remember.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
is
like
that
so it was like they kind of set you up to think that oh the people in Vault 4 are bad. And then you get to the end and it's like, "Oh no, we're not bad. We're actually good. You can go. You can leave if you want."
even
You
though
know,
we worship
bye.
the villain of the show?
Well, that's like half of the
Yeah,
population. Like they have like they so like you've got the original descendants of Vault 4 who are the genetic experiments. And then you've got the other population who are like the survivors from Shady Sands
right.
and they partake in this really bizarre,
Weird like
nasty
sexual thing.
nasty ritual
Yeah.
where like they undress and they cover themselves in the ashes of their dead Shady Sands like friends
Uh,
and family and they drink somebody's blood. I don't know
yeah.
whose blood. If it's blood from Shady Sands, I want to know where they got it from and how. Like it's so and then yeah and then they have like the poster of Moldaver who they call the
Right.
Lady of the Flame or something. I don't know. It's so weird.
See,
It's so weird that I wasn't going to ask about that. That was that like but my question was like because you literally see this disturbing scene where like this lady in a tank gives birth to piranhas and then the piranhas eat her.
to me, like, it doesn't
How
seem like
how
they're
does that
really.
how did that make sense with like oh wait no there was a big misunderstanding we're not the bad guys you can leave.
See, to me, I don't think they're ever going to do anything with any of that. I think it was
I
just kind of there.
I
And
feel like I feel like I missed something.
well, to me, honestly, it's one of the scenes, and there are several scenes within the show where they have something that's just grotesque and nasty for no real narrative purpose other than to say, this is gross and nasty, and we want to make sure that you see this. And
It feels like because so part of it's definitely kind of like the the cultural sensibilities of kind of like what's acceptable on television or acceptable or at least tolerable on
Mhm.
television these days. But what I've noticed in particular with Amazon and Netflix, and maybe Amazon more so than Netflix, but they're both kind of operating in the same ballpark where we're not typical network TV,
Yeah.
so we can get away with more nastiness than what you see even on regular television now just because we can. And that
Right.
it feels honestly like I can't there's a lot of stuff that I can't see any particular reason or justification for it other than just kind of like grossness for grossness' sake. I mean, like you could look at Band of Brothers, for example, and you could say like you could look at the grotesque violence in like Band of Brothers, but like you could also argue and say that's making a point. Like
Correct.
the show is making a point that hey, war is not like, the fun movies that your dad and grandparents grew up, World War II movies, in black and white that your
Hmm.
parents and grandparents grew up watching as a kid. This was horrible. Like this was absolutely like you can look at the shocking violence in Band of Brothers and see it as basically like a sobering educational experience.
Correct.
And that is not what's going on here. It's just like, hey, watch a lady give birth to piranhas and then watch the piranhas eat her. Like it's it's like just
Yeah.
because we can.
I'm not a fan of those parts of the show where it is just that. Let's make it gross because we can make it gross. It adds nothing to the narrative, nothing to the plot, no real mystery to solve. It's just gross. And
But
to me, that's a point against the show.
well, they dropped it too. Like it didn't. It like that whole scene didn't have anything to do with anything. Like I said,
Right.
I was like,
It,
that's why I was asking. Like, did I miss something?
no,
Like
I don't
why?
think it serves any narrative purpose.
Yeah, that was yeah. So that was that was weird.
Yeah. I mean, at least like when you're playing the game, I mean, it'll hint at like weird stuff going on, but for the most
Hmm.
part, it doesn't show you stuff like, to that degree. I think it's just for shock value, which is pretty immature to me.
Yeah, I agree. I do appreciate though, because you know how like with the newer games, there is kind of like a running trend of even the player character's body is not sacrosanct. It's like in Fallout 3, Point Lookout, was it? You go to the swamp, you go to the bayou in Fallout 3, that DLC.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So like when you go there, like they steal a part of your brain.
Mm.
They put it in a jar, or or like Old World Blues in New
Right.
Vegas, where they kind of like rip out your brain, your heart, and your lung. Now you can get them back. You can get your brain, your heart, and your lungs back, but they rip them out and replace them with like like cyber brains, cyber lungs,
Uh-huh.
cyber heart. Kind of goofy stuff like that. You like, I like there is some of that weirdness that I do kind of appreciate, where it's like, hey, like Lucy's a main character, but like she's not. Uh, like the bodies of our main characters are not sacrosanct in this specific sense
Right. But at
that
least then,
where Cooper like cut off her
oh
finger,
yeah.
and then she like was it her finger, or did she sew a different finger back on?
I
I
I don't
don't.
even remember.
So like the rest of the so like for the rest of the show, she's walking around and she's got like a blue finger.
Right. See, and that's the kind of stuff that, yeah, it's kind of nasty, but at the same time, it's at least tied into ongoing narrative, which makes it more
Yeah.
substantial. And I'm
Hmm.
okay with that, especially in Fallout. But
Yeah, but I don't know. It was just it was like one of those things where it was like, oh my gosh, like that happened. That's kind of crazy. But at the same, I don't know. Lucy's blue finger fits more, I think, than
piranha babies.
yeah, that.
Yeah. All right. Well, is there anything else that you want to mention?
Um, I didn't watch the show. Like I didn't re excuse me, I didn't
Yeah.
rewatch.
Right.
Very important distinction.
Yes, yes.
I didn't rewatch the show, so
Yeah.
like I don't really have like a whole lot more. I really do want to stress that once you like again once in my opinion, once you get to episode 4, it really does become like it really does become just like a really really fun show to watch.
Yeah, and I will say that well, reviews can be helpful or not helpful. The
Hmm.
season two has gotten very high reviews going into like the first several episodes of people who have, like the critics or whatever who have seen it. It's kind of like
When did that
100% on
drop?
Rotten Tomatoes. So actually, episode one dropped today, right when we started this conversation.
Ah, that's
So
right. Okay.
yeah, because they decided to release it a day early. So it was supposed to be tomorrow originally. Um,
Gosh darn it,
yeah.
Amazon.
So after this, I guess I'll have to hop over there, see what's going on. Yeah, and so moving forward, I don't feel a need to do like episode by episode thing, but maybe we'll do
Nah.
like a mid-season and post-season or something.
I
If,
mean,
if we want to.
there is stuff that you could absolutely go through the episodes and kind of like pick through themes and ideas and stuff like I mentioned earlier, like with all of the dichotomies between Cooper's past and his present as a ghoul, and just how that's just kind of like wonderfully narratively mirrored and
Hmm.
framed. There is stuff going on that's just like really really fun. Oh, I did see something. This is random. So I had a larger point to make
Hmm.
with this. I'm not going to do it now because it's it's kind of too late for that. But I do want to mention something. You know how the bears are called Yao Guai?
Uh-huh.
Did you notice? I don't know. Maybe you already did. Did you notice that Yao Guai is a play on Yogi Bear?
Oh, is it? Maybe I think I knew that once upon a time, but I may have forgotten. That's
I so
funny.
so so I want to say it's a play on a Chinese word for like a monster,
Yes.
but there's
Uh-huh.
also kind of like another pun layer where Yao Guai is Yogi Bear.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, there was going to be a broader context for that, but we're not doing that now
Yeah, we'll
because
leave.
that ship sailed.
We'll leave on that level of profundity. All right. Um, yeah, so we'll go ahead and wrap it there. Appreciate you joining me for this chat. And like I said, we'll talk something about season two. I don't know whether it's middle or
Mm-hmm.
maybe at the end, but
Mm-hmm.
look forward to seeing where it goes. But we'll go and wrap it
Thank,
there.
thanks for having me.
Oh,
Having me. I can't talk.
thanks.
Good
Appreciate it.
night.
All right. See ya. All right. Thank you for listening to the Mythic Mind Games podcast or watching over on my channel on YouTube. Make sure that you're subscribed to both so that you don't miss anything. This concludes this main series that I've been doing on Fallout for now. As I mentioned, sometime next year, as I give myself the time to work through each of the games and really put some more developed thought into them, I really want to do a whole Fallout in philosophy study. Just kind of working through all the games, applying some thought, connecting ideas in the games to the broader history of ideas. That's kind of my thing. I am a professor of philosophy and theology by trade, which, as I've mentioned before, and so I really like dealing with these franchises that I've enjoyed for quite a while, and I like taking those into my more professional kind of thought. And so I look forward to doing that next year. For now, as I mentioned, I'm not going to be doing full discussions on each of the episodes of the second season of Fallout, but I am providing some just quick, like 30-second first impressions of each episode over on my YouTube channel. Maybe at some point I'll combine those together to just make like a sequence of impressions for the podcast. But for now, that's just going to be over on YouTube. So make sure you're subbed over there. And this is going to be the last main episode of the Mythic Mind Games podcast for 2025. Although I will be putting out one more episode across on YouTube as well as across all three Mythic Mind podcasts that just details some of where we've been this year, but also that tells you where we're going in the various arenas in literature and philosophy, in games, in movies and shows. There are a lot of things that we started this year that are going to be moving and just increasingly more exciting, and then I believe truly worthwhile, truly profitable directions. And so make sure that you keep an eye out for that. Make sure that you are subscribed to my YouTube channel. Make sure that you are subscribed to all three Mythic Mind podcasts. That is Mythic Mind Games, and Mythic Mind Movies and Shows. The next thing to come out from Mythic Mind will be actually it'll be on all channels that just kind of looking back, looking ahead discussion. Also, at some point within the next few days, I'm gonna be putting out our live watch and commentary we did on the movies podcast on the Star Wars Holiday Special, and then I'm going to have one more main episode coming out over on Mythic Mind and my YouTube channel, of course. So still some stuff happening here, but I look forward to getting more into more of that with you very soon. But that's it for now. Until next time, Godspeed.
When you're at ground zero and crawl out through the fallout back to me.